Heavy Metal is hands down one of the strangest movies that I've ever seen in my life. Based on a magazine series, this is a Canadian film featuring voice work by some actors who you would never imagine would get involved in a movie like this. Basically, this movie is an anthology of short stories told by the Lochnar. The Lochnar is a glowing green ball representing all evil. The short stories in the movie are told by the Lochnar to a terrified young girl whose father is killed early on by the Lochnar. And honestly, the stories have nothing to do with each other except for the fact that the Lochnar is present in all of them. The first story revolves around the Lochnar being in a futuristic New York setting, and there's a cab driver named Harry Canyon who's the first-person narrator in the short story, and so we see his adventure. We also get a short story involving this 18-year-old boy who finds the Lochnar and tries to use it in an experiment, but instead is sent to a parallel universe in a brand new body, and he ends up getting thrown into the middle of a civil war. The third story, and possibly my favorite one, revolves around a man on trial. The man is named Captain Stern, and he is honestly a horrible, horrible human being. He reminds me of a mixture between Zapp Brannigan and Stan Smith from American Dad. The point is, he brings a character witness to speak his praises at the trial, but the Lochnar's influence causes something else to happen, and I won't give it away, but it is honestly the best part of the movie. It is hilarious. It's just the way the dialogue is written and spoken. It works so well, much better than it should. And I think you could describe heavy metal with that statement. It works much better than it should. The stories don't have anything to do with each other except for the fact that the Lochnar is traveling through them. And honestly, if you only liked one out of the anthology's short stories, you could just watch that clip over and over again if you wanted. But anyway, the fourth storyline follows a bunch of World War II pilots in their plane, and they discover something much to their horror. And this storyline is very self-contained, of course, and it also is very tense, and it works very well. The fifth storyline follows just a couple of crazy aliens and a robot abducting a human being from Earth. And honestly, that one's probably my least favorite. Even by the movie's standards, the fifth storyline doesn't really go anywhere. And then the last storyline, just before the conclusion, is a drawn-out battle between these mutated multitudes of people that have been infected by the Lochnar and a civilization which relies entirely on the protection of Tarna, the Tarakian. And in keeping with this movie's style, Tarna is a very attractive, very curvy Amazon warrior who is also very scantily clad throughout her storyline. And of course, she does battle with these evil forces. And I suppose now is a great time to mention how this movie loves to take the opportunity to take their very beautiful women and have them go either topless or completely naked. And of course, there's also graphic violence for those people who are fans of that. All in all, this is a R-rated animated film. But what really makes it work is the fact that it knows what kind of movie it is and what kind of audiences it's going to attract. It's very indulgent in these things that I've already mentioned. The nudity, the violence, the occasional swearing. It's an animated film that could only be called a cult movie, and there actually is quite a fan base to this movie, which I'm not surprised by at all. Because another reason why this movie works is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is fantastic. The soundtrack to heavy metal is comprised of such musicians as Riggs, Blue Oyster Cult, Donald Fagen, Stevie Nicks, Journey, Cheap Trick, Black Sabbath, and Devo. And then the voice work, as I said, you'd be surprised at some of the people that provided voices in this movie. Obviously, since this is a Canadian film, you've got the Canadian voice work, which is comprised of John Candy, Marilyn Lightstone, Eugene Levy, and John Vernon. But you've also got Alice Playton, Harold Ramis, August Schellenberg, and Roger Bumpass. It's pretty surprising, some of the people that are in this, especially John Candy, and some of the voice work he does. It's astonishing, to be honest. And I'm not even going to get into how I barely recognized Eugene Levy voicing Captain Stern. Overall, the movie is a very bizarre film, but it knows what kind of a film it is, so it really works for that kind of crowd. I would definitely recommend seeing this movie if you're interested in it, because if you've gotten this far into the review and you're still interested in the movie, you'll probably end up liking at least some of it. At the very least, you could get the soundtrack and just listen to that. But overall, the animation in the movie works very well. The storylines can be pretty interesting some of the time, and on a bizarre level, it does work. So like I said, if you haven't seen it yet but you're interested by this point, give it a watch. And if you're not interested by this point, well, then you probably won't be if you saw the movie, so I'd recommend you just get the soundtrack.